I think we have very large rats wielding saws. Hi everyone, just check in for the day. So I've had a very admin heavy day, which is cool. I'm wrapped up on a bunch of stuff, which is very good. We're getting set up for a shoot tomorrow where I'm remaking Castle Grayskull. But it is my favorite time of the week. Did you know this is my favorite time of the week?
I didn't know that.
This is genuinely my favorite time of the week. And this is one of the things that I fight fiercely to have in my calendar, which is currently 2 hours at the end of Mondays, most weeks, except for once a month we have like a company meeting, to do game dev. So I just wanted to share that a little bit with you guys, and as part of that, talk a little bit about, because it was actually the question of the day I'll take asks about that. So I'll get to that, but let me just start off by a little bit of a tour as to what this involves. So far, Dave and I have been meeting weekly. Hello, Dave. We do it in the roleplay rig because it's also Patreon content. So we usually meet together and we chat through a whole bunch of the different mechanisms that we want to change and stuff. And we're at a phase now where we're sort of needing to head further into active development of the alpha. So we're developing, there's a few things sort of on the roadmap that we want to do, but the current active project is Gateway Roleplay, which is our own roleplay system, but it's also going to be, it's intended to be like a self-contained game, which is home brewable and adaptable and manipulatable. But the idea is we want to make a product that is like a package that you get, and it's the whole, you get the whole experience, and we can build our system around a different theme sort of each time. So the first one that we're going to be building is going to be themed around this world that we're calling Lucifera, which is kind of like a Da Vinci punk Renaissance style fantasy world, high fantasy like Dungeons and Dragons, but just very much flavored in that direction, which will be really, really fun, and adapting our system to sort of fit that as best as possible. So previous to that, which we're starting to move into now, we've just sort of been just trying as much different stuff as possible and testing stuff. So we've adapted it to Warhammer 40k, to Pokemon. Like every time we do these different adaptions, we're getting to test different things. So Pokemon, for example, we've been like, the biggest part of prepping Pokemon has been the Pokemon themselves. This is all not official, obviously, but a fan-made version of Pokemon, which allows us to create monster cards and figure out how summons might work in our game. So by flavoring it around something that people might watch the content for on Tabletop Time Roleplay, like our Pokemon roleplay, we get to test how some of this stuff could work and play with different versions of it, and also feel what it's like to homebrew our system, which is obviously another core intent. So now we're switching into this mode where we're actively developing what's called the alpha of Gateway Roleplay, which will be much more about the presentation people are going to get for eventually what we produce as a product. So making a rule book, figuring out what abilities, what items, all these pieces looks like. So now our weekly meetings are cut a bit shorter, because previously we basically met the whole time and figured out the tweaks we'd make to our system to share it with people and to role play with it. Now we're meeting, on average, we're aiming for like 15 minutes to just sort of check in, see where we're at, and then we split and work on stuff. Is there anything I've missed?
Not really. That's correct. Yeah, so we're kind of focusing now on, there's a lot of game dev that you need to do. You can't sit and talk. You have to sometimes go off and do work. So It's now sort of like what are we doing today? What did we work out from last week? Okay, now let's go do it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, cool. So there's plenty of steps. It's a fairly long road ahead of us, especially when we only really have 2 hours a week to work on it. But it's one that I'm actually kind of most passionate about, I would say. Like, it's something I really hope that a couple of years from now we have game development as a core part of what we produce in the studio that we can justify more time for, because we're developing products that people like and buy, and that means that then we can put more into it and bring more people on board. But that's a whole one day maybe, and a whole pie in the sky dream thing. But I wanted to share that because we're about to jump into game dev, and I wanted to jump into game dev and put this vlog down for a second, but I want to end with a question of the day, which sort of prompted this whole spiel, which is, I need to ask Maddie to print the names of the askers. So if you ask this, I apologize. We'll fix that for next time. Side note, how cool is it that I get the little questions on the thing? Anyway, will Chronicles of Sunder be coming back to tabletop time roleplay? So for those of you who don't know, Chronicles of Sunder was my campaign. Reboot was Dave's Cyberpunk campaign, where I was the game master or the GM. And it was a world I'd built a long time ago, and it sort of came to life with the group's sort of efforts and stuff. The answer is no, and I've said that before, and it breaks my heart a little bit to say it, and it feels like I'm disappointing some people when I say that, because we sort of built this story together, and I think there's some people got quite invested, and I think there's some really cool story beats in that. Sorry, it's just tangent. Like when I say no, I'll just say not in the same way. Maybe that's a better way to put it. So like we might come back for like a mini season or something, but the reason my answer is I won't be doing a full campaign like that again, or carrying Ironspire on or Chronicles of Sunder on in a full campaign, there's multiple reasons. One is time. It takes a lot of personal time, a lot of time that I don't have, that I can't really justify to do it in the way that I really want to. A bigger reason I think is actually like what I get out of it. So I got out of this, I loved the world building, and sort of looking back, I'm very self-critical. So there's a lot of things that to me feel a bit predictable or a bit, you know what I mean? Like I'm also quite new to world building. So it's the first campaign that I've run. It's the first world I've fully built, and it doesn't feel like the world I would build now. So going back into that, there's a lot I'd want to change, but I sort of can't. And then when it comes to actually playing, there are some people who are a forever GM, and then there are some people who are forever players. I'm not a forever GM. I think my attention span is such that I wander off too much, and I struggle to sort of... I think my biggest challenge is I struggle to react in good time or with good twists or whatever. It's like a case in point was the Christmas special we ran. I made a roleplay scenario. I ran the session. It was just a one-shot. And it was role-playing as, you know, the someone had murdered Tim Allen as the Santa Claus. And because I'd watched the movie recently and the body faded away in the movie, I hadn't thought about it. But in the moment, I'm like, oh, and the body fades away. And I ruined it for myself because I'm like, that's the only clue. And it's just because of the way, like, my brain processing power is not great at thinking up the right fork in the road or the right response in the moment, and it gives me a lot of anxiety. Even as a player, I feel like I often don't feel like I love the decisions I make. However, I love the theatrics. What I get out of it is playing. Whereas, I mean, you are the forever GM. So do you feel like you miss out much by not playing, or are you the opposite?
A lot, to be honest.
Yeah,
no, I do. I don't think... there's some people who truly want to be the forever GM. There's a lot I love about GMing, and it's hard not to do.
Yeah.
But one thing I really miss about playing is being able to create and embody a character for a season and really dig into that. It's the character acting stuff. And in Sunder, I finally got to do that with Delvin and make this whole character who became really consistent and all the motivations. GMing, when you revisit an NPC like 7 sessions later and you forgot what their accent was, like all that stuff. I don't know. It's still, I do enjoy it though. So I think that's a key difference, is I get a lot of enjoyment out of GMing, whereas for you it seemed a lot more stressful. Yeah,
and even with what you've said there too, that like you play NPCs really well. So like while you still feel like you miss out by not being a player, you get to be a player in a different sort of way with really flavorful characters, which is something I'm not very experienced with, and I don't feel like I did.
I need
quite
your
well.
accents. I need your accents. I've got like 5
I like
voices.
the accents part. I think
you've got so many good voices. I'm jealous.
Stop it.
At least you know who your NPCs are when they talk, because they all sound different.
But we are working on this game system, which is alpha, and I said it will be called Lucivera, based in this world. And that is actually what we're working on next. And I get to work on the bit that I love, which is participating in world building and the lore and the universe and all that stuff. We're building something from scratch with help. And I'll get to be a player in that world. But I'm also kind of like, because I'm helping build the game and the world, I get enough of that. It feeds my want to create the world. But then when it comes to the actual game, I prefer to be a player. But it's also all I have space mentally and in my calendar for. I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry if it's disappointing to you.
I'll do it.
You'll do Ironspire?
Yeah, because you called it the Chronicles of Sunder.
That's
so
true.
You're not beholden to do, like, it doesn't have to be the next
Okay.
thing, you know?
I'd be all right with that.
Yeah.
If that's what people want. That's the thing too. Is like, I don't know if people will be funny about it.
It could be like literally a generation later, because it's the Chronicles of,
Yeah.
you know, it might be that things slow down. And
See, that I like.
Yeah.
And then I like the idea of like building the foundation with you and then handing it off.
yeah, that was a
Yeah.
Chronicle of Sunder. It was the
Okay.
story of the Ember Awakening and the thing.
See, and this is why I like this time of the week, because we just get to brainstorm and think up cool stuff. All right, thanks for watching, guys.